Amy Elliott. September 18, 2005, diary entry. Well. Guess who's back? Nick Dunn. 8 months, 2 weeks, couple of days, no word, and then he resurfaces, like it was all part of the plan. Turns out, he'd lost my phone number. His cell was out of juice, so he'd written it on a sticky. Then he'd tucked the sticky into his jeans pocket and put the jeans in the washer. And it turned the sticky into a piece of cyclone-shaped pulp. He tried to unravel it but could only see a 3 and an 8. He said. And then work clobbered him and suddenly it was March and too embarrassingly late to try to find me. He said. Of course I was angry. I had been angry. But now I'm not. Just last night was my parents' book party. Amazing Amy and the big day. Yup, Rand and Mary Beth couldn't resist. They've given their daughter's namesake what they can't give their daughter. A husband. Yes, for book 20, Amazing Amy is getting married. No one cares. No one wanted Amazing Amy to grow up, least of all me. Leave her in knee socks and hair ribbons and let me grow up, unencumbered by my literary alter ego. My paper-bound better half, the me I was supposed to be. But Amy is the Elliott bread and butter, and she's served us well, so I suppose I can't begrudge her a perfect match. She's marrying good old Abel Andy, of course. They'll be just like my parents, happy. Still, it was unsettling, the incredibly small order the publisher put in. A new Amazing Amy used to get a first print of 100,000 copies back in the 80s. Now 10,000. The book launch party was, accordingly, unfabulous. Off-tone. How do you throw a party for a fictional character who started life as a precocious moppet of 6 and is now a 30-year-old bride-to-be who still speaks like a child? Sheesh, thought Amy, my dear fiancé sure is a grouch monster when he doesn't get his way. That is an actual quote. The whole book made me want to punch Amy. The book is a nostalgia item, intended to be purchased by women who grew up with Amazing Amy, but I'm not sure who will actually want to read it. I read it, of course. I gave the book my blessing, multiple times. Rand and Mary Beth feared that I might take Amy's marriage as some jab at my perpetually single state. I, for one, don't think women should marry before 35, said my mom, who married my dad at 23. My parents have always worried that I'd take Amy too personally. They always tell me not to read too much into her. And yet I can't fail to notice that whenever I screw something up, Amy does it right. When I blew off the junior tennis championship at age 16 to do a beach weekend with friends, Amy recommitted to the game. Sheesh, I know it's fun to spend time with friends, but I'd be letting myself and everyone else down if I didn't show up for the tournament. This used to drive me mad, but after I went off to Harvard, and Amy correctly chose my parents' alma mater, I decided it was all too ridiculous to think about. That my parents, 2 child psychologists, chose this particular public form of passive aggressiveness toward their child was not just fucked up, but also stupid and weird and kind of hilarious. So be it. The book party was as schizophrenic as the book, at Blue Night, off Union Square. One of those shadowy salons with wingback chairs and Art Deco mirrors that are supposed to make you feel like a bright young thing. Greedy journalists with knowing smirks and hollow legs, getting the free buzz before they go somewhere better. My parents circulate the room hand in hand. Their love story is always part of the Amazing Amy story, husband and wife in mutual creative labor for a quarter century. Soulmates. They really call themselves that, which makes sense, because I guess they are. I can vouch for it, having studied them, little lonely only child, for many years. They have no harsh edges with each other, no spiny conflicts. They ride through life like conjoined jellyfish, expanding and contracting instinctively. Filling each other's spaces liquidly. Making it look easy, the soulmate thing. People say children from broken homes have it hard, but the children of charmed marriages have their own particular challenges. Naturally, I have to sit on some velvety banquette in the corner of the room, out of the noise. So I can give a few interviews to a sad handful of kid interns who've gotten stuck with the to grab a quote assignment from their editors. How does it feel to see Amy finally married to Andy? Because you're not married, right? Me, oh, I'm thrilled for Amy and Andy. I wish them the best. Ha, ha. My answers to all the other questions, in no particular order. Some parts of Amy are inspired by me, and some are just fiction. I'm happily single right now, no able Andy in my life. No, I don't think Amy oversimplifies the male-female dynamic. No, I wouldn't say Amazing Amy is dated, I think the series is a classic. Yes, I am single. No able Andy in my life right now. Why is Amy amazing and Andy's just able? Well, don't you know a lot of powerful, fabulous women who settle for regular guys, average Joes and able Andys? No, just kidding, don't write that. Yes, I am single. Yes, my parents are definitely soulmates. Yes, I would like that for myself one day. Yep, single. Same questions over and over, and me trying to pretend they're thought-provoking. And them trying to pretend they're thought-provoking. Then no one else wants to talk to me, that fast, and the PR girl pretends it's a good thing, now you can get back to your party. I wriggle back into the small crowd, where my parents are in full hosting mode, their faces flushed. Rand with his toothy prehistoric monster fish smile, Mary Beth with her chickeny, cheerful head bobs. Their hands intertwined, making each other laugh, enjoying each other, thrilled with each other, and I think, I am so lonely. I go home and cry for a while. I am almost 32. That's not old, especially not in New York. I'm tired of not knowing who I'll be with, or if I'll be with anyone. I have many friends who are married, not many who are happily married, but many married friends. The few happy ones are like my parents, they're baffled by my singleness. A smart, pretty, nice girl like me. A girl with so many interests and enthusiasms, a cool job, a loving family. And let's say it, money. They knit their eyebrows and pretend to think of men they can set me up with, but we all know there's no one left, no one good left. And I know that they secretly think there's something wrong with me, something hidden away that makes me unsatisfiable, unsatisfying. The ones who are not soulmated, the ones who have settled, are even more dismissive of my singleness. It's not that hard to find someone to marry, they say. No relationship is perfect. They say, they, who settle for TV as conversation, who believe that husbandly capitulation, yes, honey, okay, honey, is the same as concord. He's doing what you tell him to do because he doesn't care enough to argue, I think. Your petty demands simply make him feel superior, or resentful. Give me a man with a little fight in him. A man who calls me on my bullshit. But who also kind of likes my bullshit. And yet. Don't land me in one of those relationships where we're always pecking at each other, disguising insults as jokes. Rolling our eyes and, playfully, scrapping in front of our friends, hoping to lure them to our side of an argument they could not care less about. Those awful if only relationships. This marriage would be great if only. And you sense the if only list is a lot longer than either of them realizes. So I know I am right not to settle. But it doesn't make me feel better as my friends pair off. And I stay home on Friday night, make myself an extravagant meal and tell myself, this is perfect, as if I'm the one dating me. Because isn't that the point of every relationship? To be known by someone else, to be understood? He gets me. She gets me. Isn't that the simple magic phrase? And then you run into Nick Dunn on 7th Avenue as you're buying diced cantaloupe, and pow, that fast. You think, oh. Here is the rest of my life. It's finally arrived.
Nick Dunn, the day of. I waited for the police first in the kitchen, but the acrid smell of the burnt tea kettle was curling up in the back of my throat, underscoring my need to retch. So I drifted out on the front porch, sat on the top stair, and willed myself to be calm. I kept trying Amy's cell, and it kept going to voicemail, that quick clip cadence swearing she'd phone right back. Amy always phoned right back. It had been 3 hours, and I'd left 5 messages, and Amy had not phoned back. I didn't expect her to. I'd tell the police, Amy would never have left the house with the tea kettle on. Or the door open. Or anything waiting to be ironed. The woman got shit done, and she was not one to abandon a project, say, her fixer-upper husband, for instance, even if she decided she didn't like it. She'd made a grim figure on the Fiji beach during our 2-week honeymoon, battling her way through a million mystical pages of the wind-up bird chronicle. Casting pissy glances at me as I devoured thriller after thriller. Since our move back to Missouri, the loss of her job, her life had devolved, around the completion of endless tiny, inconsequential projects. The dress would have been ironed. And there was the living room, signs pointing to a struggle. I already knew Amy wasn't phoning back. I wanted the next part to start. It was the best time of day, the July sky cloudless, the slowly setting sun a spotlight on the east, turning everything golden and lush, a Flemish painting. The police rolled up. It felt casual, me sitting on the steps, and evening birds singing in the tree. These 2 cops getting out of their car at a leisurely pace, as if they were dropping by a neighborhood picnic. Kid cops, mid-20s, confident and uninspired, accustomed to soothing worried parents of curfew-busting teens. A Hispanic girl, her hair in a long dark braid, and a black guy with a marine stance. Carthage had become a very tiny bit, less Caucasian while I was away. But it was still so severely segregated that the only people of color I saw in my daily routine tended to be occupational roamers, delivery men, medics, postal workers. Cops. "This place is so white, it's disturbing," said Amy, who, back in the melting pot of Manhattan, counted a single African American among her friends. I accused her of craving ethnic window dressing, minorities as backdrops. It did not go well. "Mr. Dunn." "I'm Officer Velasquez," said the woman, "and this is Officer Reardon. We understand you're concerned about your wife." Reardon looked down the road, sucking on a piece of candy. I could see his eyes follow a darting bird out over the river. Then he snapped his gaze back toward me, his curled lips telling me he saw what everyone else did. "I have a face you want to punch. I'm a working-class Irish kid trapped in the body of a total trust fund douchebag. I smile a lot to make up for my face, but this only sometimes works. In college, I even wore glasses for a bit, fake spectacles with clear lenses that I thought would lend me an affable, unthreatening vibe. You do realize that makes you even more of a dick?" Go reasoned. I threw them out and smiled harder. I waved in the cops. "Come inside the house and see." The 2 climbed the steps, accompanied by the squeaking and shuffling noises of their belts and guns. I stood in the entry to the living room and pointed at the destruction. "Oh," said Officer Reardon, and gave a brisk crack of his knuckles. He suddenly looked less bored. Reardon and Velasquez leaned forward in their seats at the dining room table as they asked me all the initial questions: who, where, how long. Their ears were literally pricked. A call had been made out of my hearing, and Reardon informed me that detectives were being dispatched. I had the grave pride of being taken seriously. Reardon was asking me for the second time if I'd seen any strangers in the neighborhood lately. Was reminding me for the 3rd time about Carthage's roving bands of homeless men, when the phone rang. I launched myself across the room and grabbed it. A surly woman's voice: "Mr. Dunn, this is Comfort Hill Assisted Living. It was where Go and I boarded our Alzheimer's-riddled father. I can't talk right now." "I'll call you back," I snapped, and hung up. I despised the women who staffed Comfort Hill, unsmiling, uncomforting. Underpaid, gruelingly underpaid, which was probably why they never smiled or comforted. I knew my anger toward them was misdirected. It absolutely infuriated me that my father lingered on while my mom was in the ground. It was Go's turn to send the check. I was pretty sure it was Go's turn for July. And I'm sure she was positive it was mine. We'd done this before. Go said we must be mutually, subliminally forgetting to mail those checks, that what we really wanted to forget was our dad. I was telling Reardon about the strange man I'd seen in our neighbor's vacated house when the doorbell rang. The doorbell rang. It sounded so normal, like I was expecting a pizza. The two detectives entered with end-of-shift weariness. The man was rangy and thin, with a face that tapered severely into a dribble of a chin. The woman was surprisingly ugly. Brazenly, beyond the scope of everyday ugly. I have an affinity for ugly women. I was raised by a trio of women who were hard on the eyes, my grandmother, my mom, her sister, and they were all smart and kind and funny and sturdy. Good women. Amy was the first pretty girl I ever met, really met. The ugly woman spoke first, an echo of Miss Officer Velasquez. Mr. Dunn. I'm Detective Rhonda Boney. This is my partner, Detective Jim Gilpin. We understand there are some concerns about your wife. My stomach growled loud enough for us all to hear it, but we pretended we didn't. We take a look around, sir. Gilpin said. He had fleshy bags under his eyes and scraggly white whiskers in his mustache. His shirt wasn't wrinkled, but he wore it like it was. He looked like he should stink of cigarettes and sour coffee, even though he didn't. He smelled like dial soap. I led them a few short steps to the living room, pointed once again at the wreckage, where the two younger cops were kneeling carefully, as if waiting to be discovered doing something useful. Boney steered me toward a chair in the dining room, away from but in view of the signs of struggle. Rhonda Boney walked me through the same basics I'd told Velasquez and Reardon, her attentive sparrow eyes on me. Gilpin squatted down on one knee, assessing the living room. Have you phoned friends or family, people your wife might be with? Rhonda Boney asked. No. Not yet. I guess I was waiting for you all. Ah. She smiled. Let me guess. Baby of the family. What? You're the baby. I have a twin sister. I sensed some internal judgment being made. Why? Amy's favorite vase was lying on the floor, intact, bumped up against the wall. It was a wedding present, a Japanese masterwork that Amy put away each week when our house cleaner came, because she was sure it would get smashed. Just a guess of mine, why you'd wait for us, you're used to someone else always taking the lead, Boney said. That's what my little brother is like. It's a birth order thing. She scribbled something on a notepad. Okay. I gave an angry shrug. Do you need my son signed too, or can we get started? Boney smiled at me kindly, waiting. I waited to do something because, she's obviously not with a friend, I said, pointing at the disarray in the living room. You've lived here, what, Mr. Dunn, 2 years, she asked. 2 years September. Moved from where? New York. City. Yes. She pointed upstairs, asking permission without asking, and I nodded and followed her, Gilpin following me. I was a writer there, I blurted out before I could stop myself. Even now, 2 years back here, I couldn't bear for someone to think this was my only life. Boney said, sounds impressive. Gilpin said, of what? I timed my answer to my stair climbing. I wrote for a magazine, Step. I wrote about pop culture, Step, for a men's magazine, Step. At the top of the stairs, I turned to see Gilpin looking back at the living room. He snapped to. Pop culture, he called up as he began climbing. What exactly does that entail? Popular culture, I said. We reached the top of the stairs, Boney waiting for us. Movies, TV, music, but, not high arts, nothing highfalutin. I winced. Highfalutin. How patronizing. You two bumpkins probably need me to translate my English, educated East Coast into English, Midwest folksy. Me do some scribbling of stuffs I get in my noggin after watchin' them movin' pictures. She loves movies, Gilpin said, gesturing toward Boney. Boney nodded. I do. Now I own the cafe, downtown, I added. I taught a class at the junior college too, but to add that suddenly felt too needy. Boney was peering into the bathroom, halting me and Gilpin in the hallway. The cafe, she said. I know the place. Been meaning to drop by. Love the name. Very meta. Sounds like a smart move, Gilpin said. Boney made for the bedroom, and we followed. We entered the bedroom. See how the iron is still on? I began. Boney nodded, opened the door of our roomy closet, and walked inside, flipping on the light, fluttering her latexed hands over shirts and dresses as she moved toward the back. She made a sudden noise, bent down, and turned around, holding a perfectly square box covered in elaborate silver wrapping. My stomach seized. Someone's birthday, she asked. It's our anniversary. Boney and Gilpin both twitched like spiders and pretended they didn't. By the time we returned to the living room, the kid officers were gone. Gilpin got down on his knees, eyeing the overturned ottoman. I'm a little freaked out, obviously, I started. I don't blame you at all, Nick, Gilpin said earnestly. He had pale blue eyes that jittered in place, an unnerving tick. Can we do something? To find my wife. I mean, because she's clearly not here. Boney pointed at the wedding portrait on the wall. Me in my tux, a block of teeth frozen on my face, my arms curved formally around Amy's waist. Amy, her veil blowing in the beach breeze of Cape Cod, her eyes open too wide because she always blinked at the last minute and she was trying so hard not to blink. The day after Independence Day, the sulfur from the fireworks mingling with the ocean salt of summer. The Cape had been good to us. I remember discovering, several months in, that Amy was also quite wealthy. A treasured only child of creative genius parents. An icon of sorts, thanks to a namesake book series that I thought I remembered from my childhood. Amazing Amy. Amy explained this to me in calm, measured tones, as if I were a patient waking from a coma. As if she'd had to do it too many times before and it had gone badly, the admission of wealth greeted with too much enthusiasm, the disclosure of a secret identity that she herself didn't create. Amy told me who and what she was, and then we went out to the Elliots' historically registered home on Nantucket Sound, went sailing together, and I thought. I am a boy from Missouri, flying across the ocean with people who've seen much more than I have. If I began seeing things now, living big, I could still not catch up with them. It didn't make me feel jealous. It made me feel content. I never aspired to wealth or fame. I was not raised by big dreamer parents who pictured their child as a future president. I was raised by pragmatic parents who pictured their child as a future office worker of some sort, making a living of some sort. To me, it was heady enough to be in the Elliots' proximity, to skim across the Atlantic and return to a plushly restored home built in 1822 by a whaling captain. And there to prepare and eat meals of organic, healthful foods whose names I didn't know how to pronounce. Quinoa. I remember thinking quinoa was a kind of fish. So we married on the beach on a deep blue summer day, ate and drank under a white tent that billowed like a sail. And a few hours in, I sneaked Amy off into the dark, toward the waves, because I was feeling so unreal I believed I had become merely a shimmer. The chilly mist on my skin pulled me back, Amy pulled me back, toward the golden glow of the tent. Our whole courtship was just like that. Boney leaned in to examine Amy. Your wife is very pretty. She is. She's beautiful, I said, and felt my stomach lilt. What anniversary today? She asked. 5. I was jittering from one foot to another, wanting to do something. I didn't want them to discuss how lovely my wife was, I wanted them to go out and search for my fucking wife. I didn't say this out loud, though. I often don't say things out loud, even when I should. I contain and I compartmentalize to a disturbing degree. In my belly basement are hundreds of bottles of rage, despair, fear, but you'd never guess from looking at me. 5. Big one. Let me guess, reservations at Houston's? Gilpin asked. It was the only upscale restaurant in town. You all really need to try Houston's, my mom had said when we moved back, thinking it was Carthage's unique little secret, hoping it might please my wife. Of course, Houston's. It was my 5th lie to the police. I was just starting.